Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Tuesday. I hope all is well and you are starting the week in a good way. Plenty to talk about today. We're going to talk about Arsenal versus Leeds. We're going to talk about Bukayo Saka and his new contract, which hopefully will be signed soon. We're going to talk about some comments from Gabriel about Gabriel Jesus. But we've got to start. It's international break, so there's got to be a Thomas Partey injury story going on. And once again, we have one of those right now. Thomas Partey did not play for Ghana yesterday in their African Cup of Nations qualifier against Angola. He was an unused substitute left on the bench by Chris Hughton, who after the game was talking to reporters in his press conference, was asked about it, and he said, Thomas has some small injury issues. We felt it was too big a risk to start him. Cue meltdown on Arsenal Twitter. Now, my understanding of the situation is that Thomas Partey was training on Sunday ahead of that game against Angola, and he felt something in his right leg. Now, there are pictures from that training session where you see the physio sort of working on Thomas's leg. He's got some sort of strapping on his thigh around the back of his leg. Now, my understanding is it is not a hamstring issue. That's what I've been told by people close to Thomas Partey. And they believe he will be fine for the weekend. Obviously, that's a very early assessment. Partey is due back in London Colney today, where he'll be assessed by the Arsenal medical team. And then you would think a decision will be taken a little bit later on about whether he can feature against Leeds. Now, Arsenal had a physio over with Thomas Partey during this recent international break. Lots of sort of conspiracy theories doing around saying, you know, this was kind of a pre-arranged deal with Arsenal that he'd play one game, wouldn't play the second game. I'm told that's not the case, and that this was purely a decision taken by Chris Hughton because of the issue that he suffered in training on Sunday. So we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, it's a worry. Whenever Thomas Partey has an injury, it's a worry. But certainly from what I'm being told at the moment, and again, this is very early, is that it's nothing to worry about. It was purely a precautionary thing. Chris Hughton did the right thing, didn't play him, and that he should be fine for the weekend. Now, of course, Arsenal are home to Leeds on Saturday, which will be a tough game because every game's tough in the Premier League. But if there's any sort of doubt over Thomas Partey, you rest him for this one. I think you play Jorginho. That's why Jorginho signed. He's proven he can play well in this team. He's no Thomas Partey, we know that, but he can do a job. He can come in and do the job. And Arsenal are at home to Leeds, and that's no disrespect to Leeds. It'll be a tough game. Leeds are good. They won at Wolves recently. You know, they play good football, play quite high tempo, which might be a bit of an issue for Jorginho. But you would think at home Arsenal have got enough to cope without Thomas Partey in a game like this. Of course, the following weekend they go to Anfield and go to Liverpool, and that is not where you want Jorginho playing. You want Thomas Partey in that match 100%. So I think Arsenal's medical staff will take a look at things this week once he arrives back later today. They'll make an assessment later on. There's no rush for any on Tuesday. Obviously, they'll have a look on Thursday, on Friday, and then they'll make a decision before they go to the team hotel ahead of the game against Leeds. And they'll see if he's fit. But if there's any sort of doubt, any sort of worry about what playing Partey on Saturday could do, then this is the game you rest him for 100%. You just let him have the day off, and you make sure he's ready for Anfield, because that is the game that you want Thomas Partey playing in. You don't want Jorginho ideally starting in the intensity, in the pace of that game that you always get at Anfield. You just want Partey there in front of the back four. You don't want Jorginho ideally. So that's what I think. You're just going to have to... We'll see how it goes. Obviously, there's a lot of worry about it now. There always is when Thomas Partey gets injured or has an injury issue. But yeah, early signs anyway, from what I understand, is that it's not anything big. It was purely precautionary, and that, fingers crossed, hopefully he'll be fine for the weekend. But we'll have to wait and see. Arsenal make that assessment, as I said, later on in the week, and then they'll decide. And it's not just about Saturday, is it? I think with Thomas Partey, you have to make sure he's all right, because you don't want to do anything on Saturday that might threaten his participation in the next 9 games after this one. Of course, the next game is the most important. It always is. It's just how it works in football, because you've got to win on Saturday, no doubt about it. But I think you've got to think long term when it comes to a player as important to the team as Thomas Partey. You don't want to take any risks, and the whole reason Jorginho was signed was to be able to provide cover for him if he was out. And so I think you bring him in for the Leeds game at the weekend if there is any doubt. But let me know what you guys think, as always, in the comments below. Again, looking ahead to that Leeds game, there's an injury doubt for Weston. Well, it's not injury doubt, he's ill. Weston McKennie was playing for USA last night. He went off in the second half, wasn't feeling very well, has been suffering with a flu, according to their manager. So you'd think he might well be a bit of a doubt for Leeds at the weekend. We're still not sure on William Saliba yet, so we'll have to wait and see Mikel Arteta's press conference. I believe it's not absolutely set in stone yet, but from what we've been told, it's going to be Friday afternoon, 1:30 p.m. at London Colney. So we'll see if that happens. We'll see what Mikel has to say about William Saliba and whether he could be involved in that game after this back injury that he's been suffering with. No Tomiyasu, of course, he's out for the season. But other than that, everyone appears to be fine. We'll have to wait and fingers crossed that Martin Odegaard, Kieran Tierney, players like that come through their international games today. Hopefully they will. And then they all come back to London Colney. And then it is all eyes on the Premier League. 10 games to go. No more international breaks. It is the sprint to the finish line from Saturday onwards. Nervy times, exciting times, however you want to look at it. Okay, Bukayo Saka's new deal. Still not confirmed yet. Obviously, we're waiting for the official announcement. But as I've reported a few weeks ago, that is expected to come. Agreement has been reached in principle between Arsenal and the club and Saka's people. It's just a case of getting the final details over the line, getting it all through the lawyers and then getting it confirmed. I don't know when that will happen. We'll have to wait and see. Sammy Mokbel, fantastic reporter over at the Daily Mail, he was reporting last night that he's heard that once you sort of take in all the clauses and the bonuses and stuff like that, Saka will be on about 300 grand a week at Arsenal, which is big money, of course, especially for a 21-year-old. But as I said yesterday, he's the best right winger in the world, so he deserves every single penny. And I don't think anyone can question whatever money you give Bukayo Saka, you just keep him at Arsenal 100%. You don't lose him. He's Arsenal boy through and through. He's the best right winger in the world, in my opinion. He's 21. He's only going to get better. He's got the world at his feet. You pay him what you need to pay him to keep him at the football club. It's that simple. It's not like a Mesut Ozil. It's not like a Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang who's approaching 30, potentially seen their best days and a stupid contract that ends up being a weight around the club's neck. This is anything but that. This is Bukayo Saka. This is a 21-year-old. This is one of the best players in the world. Not just one of the best talents in the world, one of the best players in the world, because that's what he is now. And he's doing it on a weekly basis for England, for Arsenal. He's going to be doing it in the Champions League next season. God, it feels weird saying that, but it is correct, because Arsenal, you would think, barring the ultimate of collapses, are going to be in the Champions League next season, and he needs to be paid what he's worth. And I think he's worth every single penny, whatever it is, even if it does reach up to that sort of 300 grand a week mark with bonuses and everything like that. Obviously, there will be a knock-on effect with that. Arsenal are going to have to deal with that, but that's just what happens with success. You have to pay players more, and Martin Odegaard will probably be up for a new contract at some point pretty soon because of his performances, and he's been here a couple of years now, and he's going to be looking at what Bukayo Saka's on and say, that's what I need to be doing. We've got the William Saliba deal that still needs to be done as well. He'll be looking at that sort of thing. I mean, if you're Saliba, you can't be demanding 300 grand a week like Bukayo Saka, but you demanding good money, and Arsenal are going to have to deal with that. And they've done a lot of work in the recent years to get loads of players off the wage bill, to bring the wage bill down, and that puts them in a position to be able to pay players now what they're worth. And Bukayo Saka, for my money, and is worth 300 grand a week. He's worth whatever he wants because he's that important to Arsenal. He's the Arsenal poster boy. He's Arsenal through and through, and he's the absolute business. So you just pay him whatever he wants. You pay him, and if it's 300 grand a week, it's 300 grand a week. Just get that deal done. And fingers crossed we will hear the confirmation of that soon. Let me know what you think. Is he worth 300 grand a week? Are Arsenal paying too much for a 21-year-old there? Or do you agree with me and just think he's so important, he's so influential, he just basically is the poster boy of this Arsenal revolution. He deserves whatever he wants. Let me know, as always, in the comments below. Comments from Gabriel Magalhaes, which I think was quite nice. He was talking to, who was he? He was talking to Premier League Uncut. And they asked him who his favourite Brazilian in the Premier League is. And he said, I think I would pick Gabriel Jesus because he's won the Premier League a lot. He's played a lot of games. He has experience in this league. When he came to Arsenal, on the first day, he looked at me and said, this year, if everyone works together, we will win this league. He has good experience. Take this experience to the team. He speaks a lot for everyone. And that final line, I just think says an awful lot about Gabriel Jesus and the mentality that he's brought to Arsenal. I said similar about Alexander Zinchenko. Emil Smith-Rowe was talking about those two yesterday. I spoke about it in the video. and the difference they've made, the mentality they've brought to the squad, how stunned he was that Manchester City have let them go, and especially Zinchenko, Smith Rowe was talking about. And I just think when you see lines like that, when Gabriel Jesus first walks into that changing room at the start of the year, he looks Gabriel in the eye and says, if we work together, we will win this league. And when you've got a 4-time Premier League winner coming in to the change room and saying that, you believe it. And I think that's what's so important about those two players. That's the difference that those two have made mentality-wise to the squad. They've just come in and they've raised it to a whole new level because of their experience. And I think just the belief of the players looking around and playing with them and knowing they've done it before and knowing that they can get themselves over the line and believing what they're telling them. And when they're telling them that you guys can win this league, then they're going to believe it, and that's just going to make them feel 10 foot tall. And I think that's such a big difference. And like when Emile Smith Rowe spoke, which I talked about yesterday, when he said that he saw it in everyone's eyes as soon as he got back last summer for pre-season, that he knew that this team could do something special this year. I just think those two, the addition of those two players, so huge in that, in terms of what it's done to the change room and the belief around the football club. And like Smith Rowe, I still can't believe Manchester City did it. And I suppose Man City looked at it and thought, you know what, Arsenal just aren't challengers, so we can get away with doing this. There's no way you'd think they would have sold those two, for example, to Liverpool last summer, but they did to Arsenal when it could prove to be a massive mistake. Pep always now says it publicly that he doesn't mind that they did it, but deep down you think what they talk about at the Etihad now, they must sit there thinking, what on earth have we done giving them those two players? Because it's just so important. I mean, Zinchenko, what an absolute bargain he has proved to be. Jesus obviously has had his struggles with injuries this season, but prior to that he was so good, and hopefully he's going to have a big say over these final 10 games. And if they do ultimately get over the line, if they do ultimately help Arsenal pit Manchester City to the post this season, then there's going to be a lot of people questioning a lot of decisions that the Etihad come at the end of the season. So we shall wait and see. All right, that's it from me, everyone. Thank you very much for your time. As always, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll continue to gear up towards the return of the Premier League this weekend, and fingers crossed we'll be able to talk about the end of an international break with no major injury issues apart from this one that I spoke about at the start of this video on Thomas Partey. Have a great day, everyone. I'll speak to you soon.